Sahin al Gagarim, Mehayin Yahozri, Azrimahim Adonai, Os Shamayim Vaharetz, Al Yiten Lamot Raglacha, Al Yanom Shomerecha, Hinei Lo Yanom Velo Yishan, Shomer Yisrael, Adonai Shomerecha, Adonai Tzilcha, Aleyhat Yeminecha, Yomam Hashemesh Lo Yakekam, Veyareach Balayla, Adonai Shomerecha Mikol Raham, Yishmoret Nafshecha, Adonai Yishmoret Tzedcha Uvohecha, Meyata Vehad Olam.
Kol omer kra v'amar ma'ekra, Kol habasar chatzir, V'chol chasto ketzitz hasadeh, Yavesh chatzir, Novel tzitz ki ruach Adonai nashva bo. Achein chatzir ha'am, Yavesh chatzir novel tzitz u'devar Eloheinu yakum li'olam. A voice says, cry out. But I ask, what shall I cry? All flesh is like grass, and all of its beauty is like the flower of the field. The grass withers, and the flower fades, when a wind from God blows upon it. Surely, therefore, people are like grass. The grass withers, and the flower fades. But the word of God endures forever. L'David mizmor l'Adonai ha'aretz umloa, tevel v'yoshveva, ki hu al yamim yisada v'al nehorot yichoneneha. Mi ya'aleh bahar Adonai, umi yakum bimkom kadsho. The earth is the Lord's with all of its fullness. The world is the Lord's with all of its inhabitants. Who may ascend the mountain of the Lord? Who may stand in the holy place? He who has clean hands and a pure heart. He will receive a blessing from the Lord and a just reward from the God of deliverance. Often enough when we use the word love or the word relationship, in American movies, it's often about a spouse, a wife or a husband, a boyfriend or girlfriend. In psychology, a lot is written about a person's relationship with their mother and their father. But in the Bible, in all the important early stories from the very beginning, the main emphasis in the relationship that determines what kind of person you are is your relationship with your brother. How brothers get along. And in the Torah, not a lot of brothers get along. But when they do get along, it's a beautiful testimony to their character and their goodness. Harvey, you had a wonderful and supportive relationship with your brother. In fact, I dare say, I think a lot of those biblical brothers would have a lot to learn from you. Sammy was 6 years younger, but you've always been close. You've looked out for him. You've been thrilled by his successes, and you've been there no matter what. You've worked together. You've laughed together. You've talked politics together. When in the restaurant business, you each had your talents, you each had your roles, and you worked together. You made it work without the dissension, without the problems that often siblings have. Sammy managed the restaurants. He was a people person with a good heart, with a sense of humor, an engaging personality. Optimistic, you were always able to talk together as brothers who had a common history and a common legacy and a common identity. Your parents were in the concentration camps. Harvey, as a little boy, you heard their conversations, and you never forgot them. To hear about this past and to know about that past and to pass on that memory as part of your story and was also part of what you and Sammy shared. Sammy's parents, your parents, met after the war in Germany. They had both been in Bergen-Belsen, and they were part of that noble generation, heroic generation, who responded to the fact of their own survival by bringing life into the world, by creating the next generation. Your parents were hardworking, and they taught you and your brother the meaning and importance of that work ethic. You tell me that your father had been in 6 camps, and your mother had been in 7 camps. But they survived. And they also made sure that you and Sammy would not only survive, that you would feel loved. Sammy had wonderful role models. First of all, your parents. You, Harvey, as his older brother, you were also an important role model to him. Sammy always had an interest in cars. He had something of a mentor in Sam Marshall, who he worked with briefly and learned from. And ever since he was 16 years old, he worked with cars. He became more and more experienced, wholesaled cars, and he got involved in exotic cars. He loved it. He loved the cars, and he loved the contact with people. And people liked him. You told me even the nurses involved in his care during these challenging days were quite taken with him. As his diabetes began to really affect him, he barely complained. Dialysis, he didn't become bitter. He loved many things. As you said, he loved cars. He loved discussing politics. He loved people in general. But he had a very special love for you, Dominic. You knew how your father felt about you. You knew that you loved him and he loved you. You lived with him in his more active years. And as he has become more ill, you've remained by his side. He shared his stories with you, and you understood from where he came. And you respected that, and you honored that, and you loved him. You cherished your time together, your conversation. You stayed with him in the hospital. I know this is a devastating loss. It's the price of love to have the pain of loss. I know as well that your mother helped him during his illness, that he appreciated that support and that renewed friendship. To all of you who cared for him in his more challenging days, you certainly have the respect and affection of the family. Harvey, you saw this life, you saw your kid brother's life develop. You saw it grow, you saw him moving through the world, succeeding, making decisions, the good and the bad and everything, like a brother, and sometimes as a surrogate father, you were close to him. Yours is a small family. Yours is a small family made smaller by the ruthless and the despicable enemy in World War II. But you learned to move forward, and you learned to move forward and to help each other in moving forward, to write more chapters in your family's story. And I know Sammy was a central part of all these years to those who loved him. He endeared himself to others and created many memories along the way. He lived with a good name, and he died with a good name. I want to call on Brad, who's going to say a few words.
We are gathered here today to say goodbye to our friend Sammy Kay. I have thought long and hard about what I would say about my good friend Sammy. I met Sammy in 1979. I really don't know why we hadn't met each other before. By this time in my life, I believe I had met most of the real characters on the east side of town. Craig Summers and I were building Lopez y Gonzalez, and Craig had grown up with Sammy. And so Sammy stopped by one day during construction, and Craig introduced us. Our friendship began to be built that very first day and has endured decades. Sammy Kay, how could I express and capture the unique individual that we all knew? Sammy was a man who enjoyed and appreciated great beauty. He found it in cars, jewelry, architecture. He found it in everything. He just appreciated anything that was really beautiful. As I got to know Sammy, I found that he was like many of my friends, individuals who possess traits I value, respect, and even envy. With Sammy, I envied his ability to tell a story. I've met quite a few storytellers in my life, someone who can take the most ordinary story and make it interesting and then entertaining. This is a gift Sammy Kay had either been born with or had mastered. He was one of the finest storytellers I've ever met in my life, and trust me, after being brought up on George Vincent Street, I had met quite a lot of storytellers. None as masterful as Sammy. His timing was impeccable, and his delivery flawless. So to remember a great storyteller, I want to share just one story about not a story Sammy told me, but something that we all did. Sammy, Craig, and myself. We decided to engage in a bet to see who could lose the most weight in 30 days. Of course, none of us trusted the others to accurately report their weight. So we started by making an appointment with Stuart Berkowitz, and each depositing $1,000 with Stuart and having us weigh in. The initial weigh-in and give it to Stuart $1,000, sorry. We were all boasting and laughing with the anticipation of winning. We all had our plans about how we were going to win. Personally, I had showed up with leg weights wrapped around my waist, covered by a large sweater, making me instantly 15 pounds heavier. It's clear to me Sammy really knew my nature, my character, and my lack of willpower, because from that day forward, every night my doorbell would ring with deliveries of ribs, chicken, pizza, Chinese food. Sammy had food delivered to me at my office. It was hysterical, needless to say. At the end of 30 days, our weight loss program was a massive failure. I think we all actually gained weight. I was never able to fully describe Sammy's unique personality. Sammy knew what he liked and what he didn't like, and he brought equal energy to both categories. If Sammy liked you, you knew it, but if he didn't, well, you knew that too. Sammy embraced his role as a stepfather to Dominic with great enthusiasm and love. To his final days, there was never a time we talked that he did not mention Dominic and his care and concern for him. Sammy also loved his brother and talked about their special relationship and how lucky he was to have his brother, who was so dedicated. To have a brother like Harvey is a rare and valuable treasure, and I know the great amount of joy and happiness that Harvey brought to Sammy. But if my relationship with Sammy could be boiled down to just two things, it would have to be food and laughter. Sometimes we got to combine the two things together. Telling a story or two while grilling a whole Romanian pastrami, these are moments I will never forget with my friend Sammy, who made no mistake, sometimes hated me, sometimes criticized me, always gave me what was on his mind, unvarnished and unfiltered, but that's Sammy. I've been very lucky to have great friends, but there is no one like Sammy, and I will miss him every day.
Larry Weiser.
This is a short little tribute about Sammy, for Sammy, and why Sammy means so much to all of us. As was said, Sammy does not have many close family members, mainly Harvey and Dominic. During the last 10 years, when I got to know him, Sammy appeared to live a quiet, unassuming life. It took a while for him to really warm up to me and open up about his past. I sensed this was just about how he acted with most of the other people he came in touch with. Like most of us, he had his passions. As was said, he loved his cars. He knew everything you could ever want to know, and if you ever needed help trying to find out about buying a car or him buying one for you, he would always be there. He loved his food. As Brad said, you could sit there and just enjoy a meal, the stories, and There was always something there that he could add to the flavor of the food. Sammy also liked politics. He had his strong areas that he really believed in, and we would spend many hours discussing our current world affairs. Those passions often shone through when he was with other people, sometimes good, sometimes bad. Though he would always tell you what he thought, he could be dogmatic, he could be stubborn about his beliefs, but he said things in such a way that no matter what he said, you felt it came from his heart and something that he really believed in. What you also realized from being around him was when he was your friend, he was a real friend. As times passed, I began to see his sense of humor. I would hear his stories of his past and his anecdotes. People probably don't know that at one time he tried being a stand-up comedian in LA, and I'm terrible at telling jokes, so I'm not going there. But he would tell great stories, and you would sit there and just be enthralled by the hours. He also would talk about his time living in Las Vegas, and many of you would know who his boss was, which was Reuben Sturman, who in his own right was probably one of the all-time characters. I never realized, really, when you first get to meet him, how interesting his life really was. Over the last few years, we began to have poker games at our house. Sammy was always the one who would formalize the games, invite the people. We would have Brad, Norm, Nikki, Harvey, Mel, and a lot of other people would show up periodically here and there. Sammy would often muse out loud after a game was over, and when he would lose, you would sort of hear him muttering, "How could I lose to these people?" In truth, we probably had the worst collection of card players you've ever seen. And one of the things was, I think we all felt that way when we lost at different times about how did we lose to all these other people. During the last few years, Sammy would spend a number of hours at my house playing with my dog. He loved animals. I don't know if anybody realized how much he really cared about them. He would often refer to his old dog by the name of Mercedes and how he wished his health would allow him to have another companion. But Sammy had another companion, a two-legged one who was there always through his entire life, his brother Harvey. They were inseparable. They looked out for each other. There was never anything too difficult they wouldn't do for each other if they could. I don't think I've ever seen a closer relationship between two siblings. Sammy cherished the time he spent with Harvey, and I'm sure the feeling was mutual. The bonds between them were deep, intense, and loving. Though Sammy will be missed by all of us, I know Harvey will have lost a brother, and Dominic will have lost his father, and they both have lost a friend and someone who they could count on. And again, the relationships were special, one you wished you could share with a loved one.
Please rise.
Eile malei rachamim, shochayna bamramim, hametzemeno chanechona, tachat בכנפי השכינה, במחלות קדושים דהורים, כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים את נשמת שמואל קיי, שהלך לעולמו בגן עדן תחי מנוחתו. אנא בעל הרחמים, אז תראי בסתר כנפיך לעולמים, ותצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתו. אדוני ונחלתו, וינוח בשלום על משכבו, ונאמר Amen.
May we remember all of the worthy and the righteous deeds that he performed while in the land of the living. God is now his portion. May he rest in peace. And we all say Amen. Let's be seated, everyone. We want to offer our condolences to the family, Dominic and Harvey and Judy and Brian. We want to know, and Lorelei, we want to offer condolences to all those family and friends who are sharing this moment with the family. We want to note that we're going to pause in the service at this time to move by processional to the burial spot at Bet Olam Cemetery. Following the burial, the family will be receiving visitors for the Shiva visitation at Acacia on the Green, 2202 Acacia Park Drive in the community room there. The community room at 2202 Acacia Park Drive. That will begin immediately following the burial and continue today. Please remain in your seats for another moment. The pallbearers should now come forward.
Thank you.